Users of Reddit, what was the worst decision you saw someone else make? It will be buried at this point, but I was on my way home with my parents from a day out and we were driving down a fairly steep and winding mountain road. A car passed us with all the windows open and 4 teenagers hanging out yelling and swerving around. Horseplay, you know. They disappeared down the road, but about 10 minutes later we catch up to the place where they had gone off a bridge and landed upside down in a gully. My mom was an EMT, so we stopped and she started to climb down when the car burst into flames, like immediate fireball. We could hear the tires pop, and the screaming, which didn't end quickly. There was nothing we could do. With the way the car was wedged into the rocks, no one could get close enough to have even a chance of extricating those guys. We waited for the emergency personnel and we were cleared to go home finally about an hour later. An hour of watching the car burn itself to ashes as people futilely tried to help. I still hear it. I still smell it. Those kids were only a few years older than me. It's been 20 or more years and I've lived probably about double their lifetimes. Drive safely, people. I am so sorry you had to witness that. I'm sorrier for the parents whose kids never came home because they were doing something so stupid. I don't think about it most of the time. My cousin was drafted by the Diamondbacks as a pitcher in about 2000. Got around $150,000 signing bonus, but with the potential to make millions despite being as dumb as a sack of hammers. Blew all $150,000 on a car and sound system for said car, then knocked up a girl at the first place he went in the minors, then meth. I know a dude that got drafted by the Cubs 20th overall in 2005 and by 2010 I saw him selling Slurpees at the gas station. Mark Pavelek. What a waste. My former best friend chose to marry his girlfriend who is mentally unstable, depressed and regularly abuses him verbally. He had to separate from almost all former friends with some exceptions, including me. He mustn't talk to anyone female. They regularly fight verbally, she often claims hating him. Of course, she's very sick, but refuses to go therapy or to couple counseling. Now, they have 2 children. She hates her son, because he's lively and active, between normal borders, and loves her daughter, because she's calm. She's totally open about her preference. The kids are still young, 3 and 1 year old, but it's clear they both are going to have issues because of this. I don't like her too much, but I see she's not a bad or evil person, she's just suffering from a very severe disease. It is her family's, husband and father, fault they don't intervene somehow. And they made the typical worst decision in a struggling relationship, having children. Second-hand story, but here we go. Colleague of a friend came into work excited about having bought a new house. Thought she'd got a great deal because they took like $50,000 off the original price. Why? Because they found out the place was completely infested with termites. Really all she bought was a very expensive piece of land. Edit for clarity, no, she wasn't deceived or misled by the previous owner. She knowingly bought Termite City. Watched a friend start coke in his 30s. Like 32 or something. Had a really good job and no kids. I said to him it was a really bad idea as he can actually afford the stuff and you can never really have enough of it. He's nearly 40 now and his life hasn't moved forward an inch really. A girl married her boyfriend the summer after junior year of high school, then they dropped out, and then split up before they were even married a year. I don't always judge people for marrying young, but this was clearly a series of bad decisions. I don't know. They split up so that is good. At least they did not stay married for the kids. True, it's not the worst of the worst but still fairly bad decision making. My dad left his wife of 27 years, divorced her, and abandoned 4 children for some older woman who lives in the Philippines who he met online who turned out was just using him for visa to Australia and to get her 2 kids here as well. He lost his house, car, retirement and investments. My grandfather has done exactly the same thing. Lost his house, retirement, assets and what makes it worse is the lady died from cancer, so her children are taking advantage of him now. He's on his way out and will probably pass with no money and no immediate family around him. Saw someone else decide to cut off a bus as both were approaching a red light. I was on the bus. Driver said, "Hold on, this guy's a fucking idiot." We slammed into the truck slammed into the light post across the intersection. 0 out of 10, would not experience again. This reminds me of a time when I in high school. My bus got into an accident because some asshole ran a red light. He got T-boned by the bus and his truck did at least a 180 and was facing the wrong way with the rear axle being ripped off. Barely a scratch on the bus. But truck dude and 2 people from the bus went to the hospital. Me? I woke up my nap when we hit the truck due to the sudden jerk. Edit, this happened in Florida. My granddad still has full-on screaming nightmares about the time he watched a couple of workers in a metal factory goofing around, forget to lock one thing or another and send themselves and 2 other workers to their deaths via an escaped stream of molten metal over their heads. The man has fought in 2 wars, been crushed almost to death in a truck accident, lost his wife to dementia and experienced God knows what in between. But it's that accident that he just can't get over. I doubt he's had a good night's sleep in 50 years. While I was studying at a Starbucks, I couldn't help but overhear a middle-aged woman talking a 20-something woman into what was definitely a pyramid scheme. She was selling different makeup packages that the younger woman could sell to her friends. Had gold and premium packages too. Very much a shake your head in sorrow moment. Friend of mine got pregnant at 17, subsequently had 3 kids with the guy, and got married to him before 18. He was 33 at the time. I asked her why she didn't get an abortion instead so she wasn't married so young with a kid, or at least used friggin' birth control. Her answer was because it was against her religion. Same girl is now 27 or 28, hates her life, has 3 daughters she doesn't want to care for, has problems with cheating on her husband, who is crazy but I love that man as a brother, and is a shit person in my opinion. But she won't divorce him, because again, religion. It's all fucking stupid to me. So your 33-year-old brother slept with a 17-year-old and you don't question his decision making at all? I never said he was innocent. I just like him better as a person. I knew her before I knew him and we became friends afterwards. Besides, I can't say much as I slept with someone who was 31 when I was 17. It's less the age and more the choices she made as well as the reasoning behind them. Now they've grown apart. He loves their daughters and cares for them amazingly and she parties. She is cheating on him? Ish. I know, she took a trip to another country alone and she's admitted to making out with a few guys, but he got a vasectomy a while back. So, if she ends up pregnant she's in a lot of trouble. So, if she has slept around I don't know. But she's done other things. Friends sold their beautiful home for a huge loss because they were concerned about the way things were going with the local real estate market. Later that year, gentrification took root and their house was worth almost 3 times what they sold it for. This is like RuneScape level panic selling. Right? Reminds me of a story. A couple bought a property in a part of Montana that was having an influx of tourist money and nouveau riche. The wife wasn't happy, she wanted to live in Las Vegas, so she decorated the house in gaudy neon colors. After a few years, the wife got her wish. They put it on the market for $500,000, around what they originally paid. No takers, so they pulled it off the market. 2 years later, boom, 2008. Real estate is now completely in the crapper. The couple completely panics. They couldn't afford this place if they sold their grandmother's. They end up selling the house, 16 acres of land, with water source, and several outbuildings for $125,000. 25 cents on the dollar compared to the original price. Sold it, in fact, to a couple that had dreamt of owning the place for years. I don't know if the wife ever got to live all of her Las Vegas dreams, but I do know that my best friend and her husband are doing great on their 16-acre dream property. It took my best friend almost a full year to paint over all the damn neon colors, though. The moral of this story, never panic sell a property, especially if you have bad taste in decor. Good buddy of mine got together with this girl he met off of an Cupid-ish app. Had 3 dates with her, she lived about an hour south, before she decided to quit her job and move in with him. Roughly 3 months later we're out having a few beers and he's complaining about her toxic personality. Says he's through with her and going to break up. She gets pregnant. Buddy mans up, and agrees to marry her. I don't see my buddy much anymore, but the last time that I did, he had had a big fight with her and came over to my house to crash on my couch. What was the fight over? She had open palm slapped the kid in the face. The kid is like 1 year old. A pregnant woman who was already in the process of trying to get her other kids back from the state shooting up meth. Something tells me this wasn't her first mistake. She lost the other kids largely because she was cooking meth with them running around the house, unsupervised. I know someone in this situation. She has several kids, however, most of the older ones are with the state. She had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old that she would just lock in a room while she slept off whatever drugs she was on. The 4-year-old was smart enough to figure out how to unlock the door, and the police found him and the 2-year-old wandering down a busy street, both naked, and both looking for food because mommy was too sleepy to get us food. She recently lost custody of the 4-year-old, who still wasn't potty trained, to a relative on the dad's side, and the 2-year-old has been taken away by the state as well. Last I heard, she was pregnant again. She's never stopped doing the drugs. Edit. Her defense in the custody battle of the 4-year-old was, if they are concerned about his well-being, why didn't they take the 2-year-old as well? The 2-year-old wasn't a blood relative, so they were not allowed to do anything. Poor kid. Years ago, my stepbrother was driving in downtown Cincinnati and saw a guy fall from a really tall apartment building. We used to live in the building actually. Nobody else in the car with him saw it happen and thought he was lying. Turns out this guy was entertaining guests and was showing off a trick that he apparently did often, which was doing a handstand at the balcony railing. He fell about 20 floors to his death. Edit. Just looked it up. It happened in 2005. It was the 25th floor. My cousin's whose wedding was over $90,000 and it didn't last a year. Her grandfather offered to buy them a house, which cost more, instead of spending the money on a wedding. She chose the wedding. She was a sorority girl attention whore, so she basically just wanted to show off for all her friends. I didn't bother to go. You should have. The open bar was probably ridiculous. I've told a version of this story before, but it bears repeating. I was friends with a guy a year younger than me in high school. I graduated and moved away. Went back to see my family a year or so later and ran into him. He had dropped out of school, had a kid and moved in with his girlfriend in her parents' house, and he was working at a gas station. Smart dude, charismatic. I hope shit worked out for him. I haven't heard anything about him for 20 years. My aunt. About a year ago, for some reason she quit her job and just became a raging alcoholic. Her entire days just consisted of sitting in the chair and drinking. It got to the point where her kids were suffering as she wasn't taking care of them, so they were taken by my other aunt to live with her. My alcoholic aunt got worse and worse, eventually ending up living in hostels, sleeping with guys for drugs, and now she's engaged to a 23-year-old dude who hits her. For reference, her oldest daughter is 25, and she's 49. She refuses to see her kids and doesn't realize how abusive her druggy boyfriend is. Thing is, we don't even know why she started. What caused her to quit her job in the first place? Perhaps it's just a midlife crisis in the happening, but for fuck's sake, lady, have some control. Sounds like a mental break. That's sad as hell, and must be awful for you all to watch. Yeah, it's been rough. Recently my grandmother passed away too, and everyone tried to get in contact with the aunt, but she wouldn't answer. Didn't get through to her until my grandmother actually passed away. I had a really good friend that just dates the shittiest guys. She was dating this one guy and he thoroughly creeped me out when I met him. She called me a few months later, pregnant, had been kicked out of her house and found out this guy was a convicted felon. He had told her he thought he was sterile, turned out he just hated condoms. They have a kid together now, and she claims she's caught him on Tinder and posting ads on Craigslist for sex multiple times. I was once at Trap House. I was grabbing weed, and I saw this super trashy lady shooting up heroin and coke together. When she was done, some random guy who walked in while she was prepping it was like, "Can I use that when you're done?" And then, he used the same needle. God, that's fucking disgusting. And shooting heroin and coke at the same time is a good way to rip your body in half, slow down respiratory system and speed up cardiovascular system. Side story, when I lived in LA in high school, we had people come in to educate us on HIV/AIDS. Obviously they were positive, and one guy was a drug user, and he said that he had told people in the past that he had HIV and they didn't care, they still would willingly use the same needle as him just to get a fix. So, I'm not surprised at this, but still disgusted. It's one thing hearing it as an education/clinical view, but first-hand accounts, man, they seem to be almost worst, and how nonchalant he was about it. After the birth of our child, my wife had an emotional breakdown, and started drinking hard liquor in secret after having 10 years of sobriety. She then blamed me for her emotional troubles and asked for a separation, which was followed closely by asking for a divorce. She still struggles to stay sober, and I expect in the years to come we'll lose custody of our son and regret hurting and discarding a loving and supportive partner. I saw a married couple try to fix their dysfunctional marriage by having a child. Not only did this not fix their marriage like they'd hoped, but now a child has to experience the divorce of her parents at a young age. Not to mention, one of her parents consistently mentions how it wasn't their choice to have another child, right in front of said child. Having a baby is probably the biggest test for a relationship. That must not have been the only stupid life decision this people made. Oh man, how right you are. The months before and after our kid's birth were the worst of my life. In the span of 3 months, I got laid off, got a new job, flew across the country for training, wife goes to the ER for pregnancy complications and has an emergency cesarean while I'm trying to get home, kid is 2 months premature and spends a month in the NICU. The AC broke down in the Florida summer multiple times, both cars also break down, the house floods and 4 rooms need to be gutted, and the stress from all of the above causes the cats to start peeing everywhere. We made it through, but it was a huge test for our relationship. Recent news story in my hometown, dean of students from high school goes to strip club, gets drunk, gets a little gropey with the dancers. Bouncers ask him to leave, and offer to pay for his cab. He refuses, stays, and grabs another girl. Cops get called, and they walk him out. He thinks he's getting arrested, cops say they were just escorting him out of the club, and offered him ride home. Club isn't pressing charges, guy insists he's walking home, cops say they can't let him walk, but will give him a ride. Guy starts yelling, then shoving, cops. Gets tased and arrested for assaulting police, resisting arrest. Loses job, name in the papers, life ruined. 3 chances to just go home. My druggy cousin who has had 4 of her 6 kids taken away from her, with 3 different dads, tried to get back into our family's good graces. My grandma was very generous to pay rent and utilities at a small home for them so they could move to our hometown and get jobs to take care of the 2 they had at the time. She and her husband both refused to get jobs that weren't under the table, she didn't want to lose her food stamps and pay taxes, complained constantly about the free home, and set the AC at obscene temperatures so my grandma's bill was enormous. My legally blind grandma went over there one time to try to talk to them after they wasn't answering phone calls, and they didn't let her in and called the cops on her. My cousin has since accused just about every male in my family of abuse, including my father who was an absolute saint, beloved by all of his nieces and nephews, and dying of lateral sclerosis. She went through my mom's Facebook friends to message them and say she was a friend of my mom's and needed money. She asked me for money when I was a broke-ass college sophomore. I saw through her shit and refused to pander to her when my family decided to give her a 4th chance. But after she essentially spit in the faces of the only people who were actually trying to help her, they all cut her off. Drugs will make you make some pretty bad decisions. In 1975 my father had just inherited $100,000 from a distant family relative. My uncle came to my father with the proposition of moving to Myrtle Beach and starting a golf cart business. At the time the golfing industry in Myrtle Beach was starting to blow up and my uncle realized golf carts were in high demand. My father felt this would be too big of a risk and so instead of taking his $100,000, which is about $500,000 today, and opening a business he put the money into a home. Flash forward to today, my uncle sold his golf cart business in Myrtle Beach for just over $5 million. By the time he sold his business he had become one of the largest providers of golf carts to the courses throughout Myrtle Beach and Conway, South Carolina. Keep in mind, he sold the business for $5 million, but he had also made several millions over the 30 years of business. My dad to this day kicks himself for passing up on this. Very charming sweet young woman who has had problems with alcohol and drugs before gets involved in too many prescriptions. Adderall, Flexeril, Tramadol, Zoloft, Clonazepam. Starts missing time at work. I wanted to sit her down and tell her to get her shit together, but she brought a friend along when I was going to meet her so I held off at that time. 3 days later she gets into an accident with all the pill bottles in the car. Another driver badly hurt, she now has possible time coming, lost her job, and has retreated into a shell and won't deal with a lot of her old friends. Sad to watch. I wish I had spoken up earlier, I still worry about her, but there's not much I can do at this point. Zoloft is the ultimate, I have no clue how to do drugs indicator my friend. Yeah, I asked my doctor about that mix, and all he said was, make sure she gets into rehab, while shaking his head. I do want to point out that she may have some real depression issues. She's lesbian but comes from a very conservative Christian family who sent her to a camp to try to chase the gay away. So the possibility of some real psychological issues is not beyond the realm of possibilities. My friend met a girl at a wedding on the last night of a short overseas trip and decided to cancel his flight home the next day and stay in a foreign country with no job, no place to live, barely any money and a tourist visa, just to try and get with her. This was 5 years ago and they're engaged now, so I guess the decision was in a way the best decision he ever made. Still, seemed really short-sighted at the time though. Currently finding myself in a similar situation. Working in New Zealand for a couple months, met a girl from Germany on one of my weekend trips. She stayed in my hotel for 5 days after. Now I feel ready to drop everything and give it a shot. Your story is not helping my stupidity lol. Have a friend who got her boyfriend's initials tattooed on her wrist when they'd been dating for 2 months. Fast forward 2-ish years, he's dropped out of college, broke a door down to get to her during a fight, has basically one friend, who's a kleptomaniac who stole her medicine out of the capsules and tried to steal her car. She left him and got the tattoo removed. Had an ex carve my initials in her wrist with a broken piece of glass. She found me at the library, blood still on the glass so I could carve hers on my wrist. Noped out as soon as I could. My cousin's mother decided to leave her husband, for whatever reason, and start dating someone else before her and her husband had legally divorced. Sometime later, there was a confrontation between the husband and the boyfriend which ended in the boyfriend shooting her husband in the head. Needless to say, he was dead before the police arrived. The husband was probably one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. I never did hear why they decided to separate in the first place. Cousin's mother. You mean your aunt? Great aunt. I believe? I now realize how weird and dumb that sounds. Did the shooter get away with it? No. After taking the shot, he placed the gun on top of his car and waited for the police to show up. I think he tried to plead self-defense, but if I remember correctly, he shot him in the back of the head, meaning he was walking away from him. Hospice nurse here. We had a medical power of attorney that was a flight attendant. The patient was 103 years old and having one of the worst deaths I have seen, moaning, yelling, thrashing in the bed. We begged for the use of the comfort meds. He said, no, she can't talk, she's dying, so there's no way she's in pain. She can't say she's in pain, so she's not. He never even saw her. 2 different medical doctors called and this asshole knew better than them. The best we could do was have the pharmacist compound Motrin into a rectal suppository, which is a horrible thing as it doesn't absorb well that way. Better than nothing. To this day, I hate that person. There was no dignity in that death. Fuck that dude. This was myself sophomore year of college, had a final for a very important class that was required for my major the next day. It was a really hard class and I had been skipping a lot, only went once a week. Acquired a Vyvanse from my friend so I felt pretty confident about my planned cram sesh and the test the next morning. I took the Vyvanse and felt so focused that I decided to play some FIFA and then study late that night. After crushing 4 or 5 games, I decided, I'll play till I lose. Next thing I know it's 5:30 a.m. and I had still not lost yet. I won somewhere between 20 and 30 games in a row that night. Upon realizing the magnitude of my terrible decision making, I started to study. I started to come down off the Vyvanse as I attempted to study a statistics book that I had opened only once or twice before. I passed out from exhaustion and woke up at 9 just in time for my 9:30 test. In total, I studied for about 45 minutes, slept 2 hours, and played FIFA for 8. I failed that test, failed the class, and was forced to change my major. TLDR, took Vyvanse night before a big test in college. Played video games instead of studying. Failed the test and thus the class the next day. Forced to change major since it was a required class for the major. A dude I used to work with had put an engagement ring on layaway for his girlfriend. He was excited to ask her but used layaway to make sure he would have time to make the proposal perfect. His girlfriend got hired at the same job, she snooped and found the ring and cancelled the layaway saying that he has horrible taste and how could he think she would wear something so hideous. It was a 3/4 carat solitaire. Once he got to work, she made him put a 1.5 carat solitaire on layaway and she berated him for the remainder of the day and for the 5 months leading up to him proposing. He cried at work multiple times and she bragged about making him cry all the time. His parents were staunchly against him marrying her, especially after she announced at a family get-together that she would leave him if he didn't find a 6-figure salary out of college. They got married anyway. Edit, for those of you wondering, last I heard from a coworker is that they moved closer to his family so he could work for his dad. She used to talk about his parents like they were dirt beneath her heel, so I'm sure it's going about as well as one can imagine. She was a terrible person. Her stepdad had a lot of money, so she had become accustomed to the lifestyle, which she was no longer living in. We all told him at work she was wrong for him, but he made several excuses for her. She talked non-stop about this one-of-a-kind $80,000 dress she was going to buy to get married in. I laughed in her face when she told me. My husband proposed with a $200 ring after he and I discussed for months the idea of marriage. The ring was beautiful and I loved it. He surprised me on our 2-year wedding anniversary with a slightly larger, gold-banded, ring similar to the original. Our wedding only cost $2,500. She scoffed when I told her. She is probably my least favorite person I've ever met, and I've met a lot of shitty people.